Blackburn 1, Pompey 1. Now, if you look at the bald scoreline, towards the end of the season, we'll look at our results and we'll go, yeah, we got a point at Blackburn. That's not bad going. That'll do. That helped us. But at this moment in time, 2 minutes after the final whistle's gone, we feel gutted. We feel absolutely and utterly crestfallen. We feel robbed. Did we rob ourselves, or did they come and mug us? It's a bit of both. Blair has a number of great strengths, but he's not a left back. I mean, what was he doing there? Isn't that where Swanson's supposed to be playing? Eliminating the threat from their forward right wing. But it didn't work out that way. I'm not going to blame anybody for that. I'm talking about their equalising goal, because I don't know if you've noticed, but when you watch a football match, the last 10 or 15 minutes are when the game is over and you're on your way home or whatever, the last 10 or 15 minutes loom far larger than the preceding hour and a bit. That's the way our memory works. And we experienced the elation of possibly coming away with 3 points. And it was wonderful to see Connor Ogilvie on the score sheet. He is such a soldier of ours. He is such a trooper of ours. He defended as a centre-half absolutely magnificently. He won so many big aerial combats, and he is not the tallest guy on the pitch. When Regan Poole had to go off, and we brought on the tallest man on the pitch, the wonderful Conor Shaughnessy, the game changed slightly. Seggs came on, and he takes a nice corner. I'm not saying that Chaplin doesn't, but Seggs takes a nice corner. He fires it in, and he would have been looking for Shaughnessy's head. And if you watched Pompey play the love train thing for corners, they had initially Pack shielding Colby Bishop. But once Shaughnessy came on, Pack and Bishop were shielding Shaughnessy, because he is our best bet for converting a corner into a headed goal. And Shaughnessy also defended, of course, extremely well. Oh, please, may he stay fit. Dear goodness, may he stay fit, could be the difference. Yeah. Even tried an overhead bicycle kick. Who does he think he is? Wayne Rooney? Why not? Yeah, bicycle kick in their box. I think when the score was at 1-1. And we had a chance of maybe making it 2-1. Didn't ever really look like it. Is 1-1 a fair score? Who cares? It hurt. But let's do it anyway. Probably was about fair. The commentators that I was listening to, the redoubtable Moon and Whittingham, aren't they good? They were saying that Blackburn played the first half as though they were the away side. And that's what it looked like. They played 5 at the back. That meant that our wingers had very little space to operate in. I mean, Blackburn said that they set up, with 3 at the back, but that is cobblers. They had 5 at the back. They had a man wide on the left and on the right to handle our wingers. It's a compliment to our wingers. It's a compliment to how much respect the opposition, and on this occasion Blackburn, have for Pompey, that they played the way that they did in the first half. Some commentators said they came out for the second half looking more meaningful, looking like they wanted it. And, there are fans who will say, well, they obviously got the hairdryer treatment at halftime. No. Their manager O'Neill is much shrewder than that. And they had a game plan. And for about 5 minutes into the second half, for the 10 minutes after that, they rather got hold of the game, didn't they? It was a game when the sides took it in turns to have good passages. They started well in the first half, and then we got back into it, and we got hold of the game. They threatened. They had that opportunity that, I forget which Blackburn player it was right through on goal, an excellent cross. Couldn't keep it down. It amounts to a howler. It was an open goal. There was only the keeper to beat. And you put that 6 feet over the bar, from 6 yards out. Now that's going to be on YouTube for a long time, which that particular player doesn't want. They had that chance. Adams had a sort of a headed chance. It was where the ball came suddenly onto his forehead rather than he saw it coming and was able to do what he wanted with it. I think he was aiming for their top left of the goal, the top right as we looked at it. I think he was aiming for the top right, but it just sort of went gently out of play for a goal kick. So probably one and for them, a chance for them, 1 and 3/4 of a chance for us in the first half. But we had most of the game, but then not a lot of our passing was actually going anywhere. We were holding onto the ball. We were moving it around in our third. We were working it forward into the middle third from time to time, but we ran into blind alleys, and so we had to bring it back into our third and bring it back and play it along our back line, our back four. Again, just going to have a slug of Peroni. Bear with. Bear with. Colby Bishop up front on his own, totally on his own, was absolutely 5-star. By my estimate, and I wasn't taking notes, because you can't take notes whilst you're watching a game of football if you care about one of the teams, can you? Sad. But my guesstimate is that he won 60 to 70% of his headers against a centre-half who is a professional centre-half, who's bigger than him and knows what he's doing, and Colby Bishop had him. Virtually had him, not every time, but pretty much every time. On a couple of occasions, I seem to recall, maybe it's false memory syndrome, I seem to recall him taking it on his chest. And this is no mean feat. This is a professionalism that he has, taking the long ball, mainly from Schmidt, and doing something with it. On occasions when he had to take it on his head, he would get there and he would skim a flick on, but there's nobody there. And Guy Whittingham was banging on about the fact that Ali, he said, ought to take a chance. And when he sees the long ball coming for Colby Bishop, then he gets in there. And he partners him, he shadows him. He looks for the flick on. He hopes he gets lucky. Because it's hard for Bishop to actually direct a header from a long clearance because he's got so much attention being paid to him, i.e. rough and tumble, push and shove from their centre-half who's marking him, that he can't really direct the ball, but he can flick it on. And that's what Whittingham said that Ali should have been looking for, and he's right, actually. But Colby Bishop, absolutely 5-star, leading the line. There were lots of players who played really well. I thought that Connor Chaplin, I should say, I beg your pardon, had to find himself getting hurried on occasions when he actually wanted half a second longer in order to consider, mentally process and make a telling pass forward, a defence-splitting ball. That's what we're looking for from him, as well as goals. And he had one shot, he had a chance to line it up, and it skewed high and wide. High, wide and handsome. Who was that? Andy Fairweather Low and Ian Botham, wasn't it? Anyway, but lots of people played well. Marlon Pack is just, it's almost like he's in his prime, never mind about in his pomp. And Adams, oh, what a hero he's turning himself into. Look, it'll go down in folklore, his run along the pitch when he scored that equaliser at Fratton Park to salute the Fratton end. That remains a piece of legend. And there's other stuff as well. His tackling, his combativeness, his humour. He took out one of their advertising hoardings. He took it out. It doesn't work anymore because they bundled him into touch, travelling at their full speed, 28 miles an hour, whatever it is footballers run at when they're flat out, the average footballer. Right, flying into it at 28 miles an hour, he took it out. It doesn't work anymore. And it seems that the Blackburn fans felt, once they knew that Adams was okay and he got to his feet and he himself was laughing about it, they seemed to take him to their hearts. So, he's won the hearts of Portsmouth. He's winning the hearts of Blackburn as well because of the guy that he obviously is. And remember, as the commentators reminded us, he hadn't had anything to eat since the sun came up on the Saturday morning of this game, because of the worship that he offers to the god of his choice. And good luck to him for that. But if he can keep going like that on nary so much as a boiled egg, well, what's he going to be able to do on a full English? Not that he's going to have a full English. But you take my point. Adams has heroism written all over him. And Pompey fans, most football fans actually love that. I'm not going to pretend we're special in liking a player who is prepared to, cut him and he bleeds blue or red or whatever the team's colours are. Such players are 10 a penny, but such players who can do it with such realism as Adams can are a lot more rare on the ground, and we've got one in him. Marlon Pack had another fantastic game. Ogilvie, I've mentioned. Shaughnessy came on like he was 8 foot tall. What a rock. Schmidt was very unlucky. He got a fat hand to their goal, but not fat enough, and so it squeezed goalwards and went in off the post. But we ought to concede that Connor Ogilvie's goal took quite a heavy deflection, and if you look at it back from behind the shot, you can see that the keeper was moving in that direction and may well have got it covered if it had gone where Ogilvie was intending it and sent it, but it took a heel off a Blackburn player and it went over the keeper's head. So you can probably say honours even on those 2 goals. When Shocks came on for Regan Poole, our first worry was that Poole might have an injury which could affect his rest of the season, because he's a player not without an injury history. But with Shocks back in play, then if that happens, and if we just lose him for a game or 2 games, with Shocks back doing what he can do, then that's not such a big blow. So we might have got a little bit unlucky, but also lucky as far as those things go. And Shocks very nearly got a goal from the first corner that we had after he came on, because he is so dominant in the box. He's not only slightly taller and slightly more muscular than just about anybody else on the pitch, he means it, he wants it. This is my ball, I'm going to get this. And that is such an important attitude to have when the ball is swinging in to either of the penalty areas, to defend it and get there first and head it as far away from your goal as possible, or to get your head in it and knock it into the net. And so we've got him back. And we've taken a point at Blackburn. And any one of us would have taken that point before the game, am I not right? And yet we feel gutted, we feel demoralised, we almost feel defeated, because they nicked it at the death. And there'll be a few moaning minis who'll want to say, well, why do we always, concede so many goals in time added on? What is wrong with it? It must be something to do with the training ground being waterlogged, or possibly the fact that the Eisners haven't bought players who can last 98 minutes, all that. Cobblers will go on. Fact is, good point. Takes us a point closer to survival. And that's all that matters. It's now 10 minutes after the final whistle. I imagine John Messino is doing yet another one of his endless interviews in which he's always asked the same questions and somehow manages to make it interesting, even though his answer's interesting, even though his questions aren't. So, John, a point at Blackburn. How does that feel? Oh, what? 2 changes from your last starting lineup. What was the thinking there? Oh, shut up. I want to ask John Messino this. And it's the only question I'll ask him this season, because I don't bother him, right? He's got a job to do, and I want him to do it well. And I don't want him to do interviews endlessly, answering pointless questions. I want him to manage our club as well as he possibly can. and that means it is the subject of his total and utter devotion. But I would ask him this. Against Hull, what's he going on about, Boyd, now? Against Hull? What's that got to do with anything? Against Hull, we're at home, and after the toss, the teams had to turn round, which meant that Pompey were kicking towards the Fratton end. Disappointment. There's always a slight groan goes up around the ground when they discover that Pompey are going to be kicking towards the Fratton end in the first half, and therefore towards the Milton end, which is 50% opposition, and Hull were very noisy, quite noisy, well done them. Okay, but what it always means is that Pompey have kick-off. Not that that makes any difference. Hardly anybody's ever scored direct from a kick-off. It makes no difference. But we didn't. Hull kicked off. And I nudged the bloke next to me and said, how come Hull have got the kick-off if they won the toss and said, we're going to turn you round so that you are facing the way you don't want to face first and second half? And I don't know still to this day what happened there. Was it a tactic devised by Pack and Musino to try and maximise our advantage of playing towards attacking the Fratton end and maybe coming in at half-time 1 or 2 goals up because the crowd can suck the ball into the net, and that's where we'd like to be, with an advantage going into the second half, even though we're kicking towards the Milton end in the second half? Was it a new tactic? Because to my knowledge, Pompey have always, if they win the toss, chosen to defend the Fratton end in the first half. I can't ever remember us not. Can you? Can anybody? So is something going on? And if so, what? And should we know? And do we care? I do. You do. We should do. And we also care about the fact that we're going into a Saturday afternoon. I'm talking to you now at 2:45. Games will be kicking off in 15 minutes. Proper games of football. Proper games of proper professional football. Kicking off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's what you're supposed to do. So that it's semi-dark when you come out of the ground and you walk past the hamburgers and the hot dog joints and the fish and chip shops and the hot potato stands and get to the station and stand there knowing that you possibly got a hot pot or at least a cheese sandwich when you get home, because you're going to need supper, not a late lunch. It's all wrong, and we'll come back to that another time. Meantime, let's look at it in the cold light of day. We went to Blackburn, a 10-hour round trip, and we got a point. We got a point. Blackburn won, Pompey won.